This is the 5th generation of one of the ugliest and yet best to drive compact SUVs. This is the new Honda CR-V. I know beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but in my opinion, all CR-Vs from 3rd generation onwards are just getting uglier. The Japanese manufacturer calls it an evolution, and I think it's time for a revolution. If I didn't know what to expect inside, I'd never even consider this monstrosity. Like in the Honda Civic, also in the CR-V there's too much happening outside. There are too many colors and materials on the front fascia. I can only imagine what these plastic faux chrome elements will look like in a couple of months when the car has been subjected to road debris from under the wheels of cars in front. From the side, you notice the bonnet is quite long, too long in fact, for what's underneath it. Instead of wasting space, Honda could have gone the French way. Espace and Scenic, which used to be minivans but are now crossovers, have much shorter bonnets because of smaller engines. I like plastic protectors along the sides, which, along with chunky tires, give the CR-V an off-roady look. In the rear, the window is small and it ends too high. Proportions seem a bit off.
There's just no way I'm going to award the CR-V any points for style, but there are many advantages hidden beneath this hideous body.
For example, the cockpit is very well laid out. There are large door bins, clear instrument cluster, 2 usable cup holders, 2 cubbies, one of them movable, large storage under the armrest with a couple of USB ports, and a large glove box in front of the passenger.
Honda kept physical knobs and buttons for the climate control. The infotainment system is touch operated. Now, I don't understand why leave so much blank real estate on both sides of the screen, but to be honest, I don't really care because I just plug in my smartphone and use Android Auto. Now, the Honda infotainment looks a bit like Android from a couple of years ago, so it's just better to use your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto.
The instruments are modern looking. The middle part is a display, and the sides are more traditional temperature and fuel gauges. The virtual display also shows directions from Google Maps navigation in Android Auto, which is not as obvious as one may think.
Have you noticed I used a key rather than a button? In Europe, keyless entry and ignition is available only on the top 2 trim models. Now, there's nothing too unusual about that. However, if you want things like a heated steering wheel or a head-up display or a power tailgate, you have to go for the top spec model. And you can't just add something, pay extra and add it to a, say, second highest or mid-trim. No, you just can't. You have to pay full 40 grand for the executive trim or nothing.
But let's assume you can live without heated steering wheel and power tailgate. For about 33 grand, you'll get a decently equipped, spacious SUV with 20 centimeters ground clearance for the all-wheel drive model. Front-wheel drive version has 19 centimeters ground clearance due to different tires. That is still a couple of centimeters more than in the previous generation.
This test car is 3 grand more expensive because it has CVT. Under normal circumstances, I would run away screaming in terror. But as I said in my Honda Civic review, a CVT and a turbocharged engine are actually a good match. Basically, torque takes care of the situation where you get this whining noise. So you accelerate and there is torque. And the car accelerates, so you don't have to press the accelerator too hard, at least not for most of the time. Of course, there are situations where you really want to accelerate and you just floor the thing, and yes, this is when it's gonna get loud, but 80% of the time you won't notice. This is a continuously variable transmission.
In theory, CVT should be more economical, but according to the spec sheet, it's not. Manual CRVs use a bit less fuel. This CVT model should use 7.1 liters per 100 kilometers combined, according to NEDC, and about 8.7 combined, according to WLTP. That's about 33 and 27 US mpg respectively. 8 liters or 30 mpg is realistic as long as you keep it below 120 kilometers per hour. Any faster and you're looking at 10 liters per 100 kilometers or 23 mpg.
As I said earlier, there is not much to talk about when it comes to the car's engine. It's tiny. It's a 1.5 liter turbo VTEC from the Civic. The turbo has been modified, as this is obviously a bigger car. Manual cars get 173 horsepower and CVT models like this one get 193 horsepower. Around town and out on the open road, I did not feel like a slouch. The engine and the gearbox are programmed to remain ready when the driver, let's say, tried overtaking but couldn't complete the maneuver. So the engine and the transmission are ready, so when I press the accelerator again, it's already there. The turbo is already ready for me to help to complete the maneuver. So that's good.
CR-V also has paddles to fake a regular automatic gearbox. This is helpful when driving down steep hills. Up to around 60 km per hour, the car can emulate first gear and engine brake effectively.
On the road as well as out in the town, the car is very well sound insulated. I guess the fact that CVT doesn't whine most of the time helps a lot. Also, visibility has improved thanks to thinner A-pillars. It's not brilliant, but it's better. As good as you can get these days. I mean, when you roll over, you don't want this to break, so obviously it's going to be thick.
Steering, as always in Hondas, is direct and gives good feel, for an SUV anyway. Suspension soaks up bumps nicely, like in a premium car. It's partly due to more rubber.
And what about driving off-road? Now, Honda CR-V gets an automatic all-wheel drive system based on a hydraulically operated multi-plate clutch. When needed, up to 60% of torque can be sent to the rear wheels. This all-wheel drive system is, to be honest, optimized to improve handling on-road, but on twisty roads, the chassis balance is, let's say, less impressive than traction. So I tried some light off-roading.
I realize most of the time here I would have been fine in a Citroën ZX with a set of decent tires, but CR-V did not have any problems with traction or ground clearance. I bet snow or mud would have made things a lot more interesting, but this is global warming and November in Polish mountains. At least admire the scenery. Cars these days have to have all sorts of driver aids, like Mazda. Also, Honda is lagging behind the European manufacturers in this respect. Lane assist works in a narrow spectrum and then it just gives you a warning. It also likes to turn itself off for reasons which I cannot fathom. Active lane assist reacts too violently to cars in front. At least collision warning works okay. You get more driver aids in higher trim models.
If I were to complain about something, it would be the sitting position. Now, the reach adjustment for the steering column is, in my opinion, insufficient. So either my knees are bent too much and for too long, or I feel like like I can't reach the steering wheel properly. Now, I suppose this car may have been designed with women in mind, and you know, they have slightly different body proportions, so it might be more comfortable for them. If you are a woman and you're watching me, judging by the statistics, you're not, but if you are watching me, maybe from your husband's account, then log out and log in with your own account so I know that you're a woman. And secondly, let me know what do you think about this driving position in Honda CR-V.
And then there is this armrest with insufficiently padded edge. It's not a deal breaker, but an irritating mistake which would have been easily eliminated. And I keep banging my knee on the edge of the center console instead of the padding on its side. On the plus side, doors cover the sills. In the back there is good legroom and headroom for passengers, higher trim gets heated rear as well as front seats. Elegance trim only gets front heated seats. There are a couple of USB ports, air vents, cup holders and places for bottles in the door bins.
And now for the manual tailgate. Annoying, isn't it? Which opens to about 180 centimeters, so watch your head.
The boot has 561 liters capacity in 5-seater version and 472 in 7-seater. In the 5-seater you can drop the floor, but there's a ledge at the end, so this isn't ideal. When I packed a couple of suitcases and bags, it looked like one more passenger would force me to use a roof box. There are no shopping bag hooks, but seats fold easily. Theoretically, you can place the boot cover under the floor, but it's not secured. Hyundai and Kia do it better. Honda CR-V starts at €28,500 for a front-wheel drive manual transmission model. In Europe, we only get the 1.5 petrol for now. This is the Elegance all-wheel drive CVT model for around €36,000. My biggest problem with the CR-V is Honda's trim policy. If you want the stupid power tailgate, you have to pay extra for other stuff which you don't necessarily need, like a panoramic roof, for example. European manufacturers give you much more choice within a trim level. Also, driver aids are nothing to write home about, and it's best if you use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay instead of Honda's infotainment.
But Honda CR-V is great to drive, it's quiet, it's comfortable, it's spacious, and this is why I like it despite its looks that only a mother could love. And do you like the CR-V? Maybe you have one of the previous models. How is it to live with? Let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching and join me for new reviews every Friday.